Wild Place. This is the Festival of Nature team kicking off day 4 of Festival of Nature 2023. We're super excited to be at Wild Place Project today, meeting some of Bristol's tallest residents. And I'm going to hand over to Eileen, who's going to tell us a little bit more about the amazing giraffes that live at Wild Place Project.
Hello, I'm Eileen. I'm an animal keeper here at the Wild Place Project. As you can see, we've got our lovely giraffe boys in the background. So we have 3 males here at Wild Place. The one on the left is called Deo, and he is a 7-year-old. The one in the middle is called Tom, and he's an 8-year-old. And then the one on the far right is called Tico, and he's only 5. So our giraffe are from lots of different places in Europe. So we've got one that's from Germany, one that's from Amsterdam, and one that's from Copenhagen. And our giraffe are pretty much fully grown, so our 2 on the left there will be fully grown height-wise. They can get like over 5 meters, so they are pretty much that now, but our one on the right can continue to grow until he's about 7. But they will continue to put on weight for a few more years, and they can get easily over 1,200 kilos. So they currently weigh about 800, 900 kilos, so they're still quite small, and one day hopefully they will get to at least a ton. Which is really exciting, and we'll have some nice big bull giraffes which hopefully will be able to breed in the future. As you can see, they're currently munching away on some lovely leaves that I've just given them, and they're currently eating some lime leaves, which you can see that they are stripping away really, really quickly. This is one of their favourites, and we feed them as much leaf as possible, because out in the wild they would eat continuously all throughout the day. So by doing that, we are making sure that we are giving them what they need all day long. So our nurseries team here are really great. They will bring us as much browse as we can possibly feed our giraffe. Like I said, they'll continuously eat, so we give them as much as we can. Unfortunately, we can't give them as much as they definitely need, so we have to supplement their feeding with some pellet, which you can see in the drain pipe up the top there. And their pellet, they get 3 different types. And one of them contains a plant called acacia, which is their favourite tree out in the wild. And unfortunately you can't grow it in this country, so we bring it in dry format, and it comes in their pellet basically. It makes it more palatable for them and more exciting. And then the other one, make sure that they're getting all the vitamins and minerals that they need, and helps to keep condition on them as well. And the other thing that we feed them is something called lucerne, which is alfalfa, and it's a legume. It's part of the legume family, and it's really good for them because they are a browsing species, which means they basically eat leaves. So it's really important that we provide them with that, but like I said, we can't give them enough, so we give them the lucerne, which is, like I said, like plants and leaves, which is really beneficial to them because they have very sensitive digestive systems. So giraffe are ruminants, which is the same as a cow, and they have 4 stomachs, which means that they digest their food lots and lots of times. And if you ever see them when they're stood still, they do this thing called ruminating, which is basically where they bring their food back up, chew it again, and then redigest it. And if you ever see giraffe poo, which is some on the floor in front of us, it's like little Maltesers, and that's because they're getting as much nutritional benefits as they can from all those leaves, and that's why it looks like tiny little Maltesers, because it's been digested so well. So it's really important that we give them such a specialist diet, and that we don't feed them anything that they can't eat, because of that sensitive digestive system. But these are our lovely giraffe boys, and you can see our zebras in our background, which also live with our giraffe every now and again, and they get mixed with them every few days. And our eland are somewhere in the background over there as well. But yeah, you can see our lovely giraffe paddock that we're stood in, that was built in 2017 here at Wild Place.
Can you tell us a bit more about their sort of specialised environment and their area here at Wild Place? You said they had a specialised diet, but
yes,
what kind of conditions do they quite like to live in, and sort of how does Wild Place give that to them?
Yes, so like I said, we've got a specially designed giraffe house. So our giraffe house inside has like 5 winch feeders, which means that we can feed lots of different food at lots of different heights. As you can see, they're slightly different heights, so it's important for us to get them stretched and use all those neck muscles as best as possible, as well as accommodating for each of their different heights. And we also have lots of feeders outside to get them to use all of their enclosure, and gives them lots of enrichment opportunities. As you can see, like I said about the drain pipe feeder, we have lots of different feeders that we give these guys, and it helps to prolong them eating that pellet and keeps them busy and entertained for a lot longer. So it's really important that we give them to those guys. If you can see the floor, I don't know if you can, it's this really abrasive substrate. Giraffes have hooves, as you can see. So we need to make sure that we keep them nice and short, same as like a horse. The horse gets a farrier. We don't do that with these guys, so we make sure that we have nice abrasive substrates. It's really important to keep them nice and short, so that they don't get mobility issues in the future. And that's why we also have sand in our house, as it helps to work as an abrasive substance. Same as like if we use the nail file, they're kind of like walking on the nail file all the time. It's not painful, it's made out of the same stuff as our fingernails, so the keratin. So yeah, it's really good for these guys. And they've got, like I said, access to the grass, which is really nice because they can have natural browsing. You can see all the trees over there that they can access and eat as much as they want to, or as much as they can reach, which is really important for these guys as it's such a natural behaviour. So we try to do as much as we can for them and extend everything that we can.
Now, I don't know about anyone else in Bristol, but a bit earlier we had some pretty heavy thunder and some very heavy rain. What do the giraffes think about English weather? Do they mind it? Are they quite used to it?
They love it in the summer, so when it's really nice and hot and sunny, you can see that these guys are out now, it's really hot here. So they'll quite often go and sit in their sand pit over there and they'll sunbathe. They absolutely love it. When it's rainy and a little bit cold in the winter, they tend to hide in the house and not to come outside. We do have a lovely, nice, warm, heated house for them as a necessity, because it's obviously quite warm in Africa, but it does get cold overnight as well. So it is similar to the Africa temperatures over here at the moment, but they do really like the sun. They like to sunbathe, that's for sure.
And the different giraffes, you find that they have quite different personalities?
They do all have very different personalities, yes. So we've got like some very food orientated ones. The two on either side of the middle one are very confident, they're always first in for food. Whereas Tom in the middle there is sort of a little bit more shy and a bit more reserved, and he's a bit more like at the back, he just watches what's going on. He's quite happy to sort of mingle around on his own, whereas these two are always really together, and they do have very different personalities and different food preferences as well.
And giraffes are quite known for their beautiful features. They've got these amazing patterned coats, eyelashes that I'm very, very jealous of, and these interesting blue tongues. Can you tell us a bit more about their features and why they have them and any surprising ones that they do?
Yes, so their tongue is really interesting because they have black tongues, like you said, and as you can see, they are eating all the leaves, and they spend most of their time browsing, like I said, so that tongue is constantly out in the sun, so it's black to stop it from getting sunburnt, which is really important because otherwise they'd have a continuously sore tongue, which wouldn't be ideal for when you're eating all the time. And if you ever feel a giraffe tongue, it feels almost like sandpaper, and it's really abrasive to be able to rip all those leaves off that branch. And they have a prehensile tongue, which basically means that they are able to move it independently and wrap it all the way around that branch and pull those leaves off. So it's really cool, and it's a really clever adaptation that they've got, and it's really robust because that tree that I mentioned earlier called the acacia, it's covered in little thorns, so by making sure that it's really tough and able to withstand all those little spikes is really important for the giraffe, which is why they also have quite a hairy face if you ever see one up close. And like I said, you mentioned those beautiful eyelashes. Everyone's always jealous of giraffe eyelashes because they are amazing, and they are really nice and long. To basically, where they're from, it's quite dusty sometimes, it can be quite sandy, so if it's windy or anything, they need to make sure that they keep those eyes clean and stop the dust from getting in those eyes, basically. And also when they have the head in a big branch or a big tree, they don't want to get stabbed in the eye, so by having big long eyelashes it helps to protect them a little bit more. And you mentioned their lovely coat pattern, so they have very unique coat patterns, and they're really cool because it helps them with thermoregulation. So the darker patches on them help to absorb the heat, and then the whiter patches reflect the heat, but whenever you look at them with a heat gun you can see that really, really clearly, so it's very cool. And interestingly, giraffes have the same amount of vertebrae in their neck as us, so they only have 7, but they're just extended massively in comparison to ours, which are really compact together. So it's a very clever adaptation, and it's really cool. And they've got, as you can see, they're massive, so in proportion to us, like their heart weighs 11 kilos, for example, so it's a lot heavier than ours, and they also obviously have to pump that blood a lot higher up than us. But you can see on the top of their head, they've got these things called ossicones, which are really cool and they look great. And they're mainly for fighting, but the males and the females do have them. But you can see that they are really cool, sit right up like that. And interestingly, when they're born, they are born with them, but they are born flat down because it would be quite painful to give birth to a giraffe with them. And then after about a week or two, they then stand back up. So it's really cool. And you can see how, I don't know if you can see him, but over there, Ben's ears, he's got one in one direction and one in the other direction. Which is really cool because they've got very good hearing, and they need good hearing and they need good eyesight because of predators. They are essentially like a lookout for a lot of other animals, so like our zebras, for example. So it's really important that they have that good hearing and they're able to tune their ears into different locations at different times. So you can sometimes see them, they might have one ear forward and one ear back, and they might be listening to me or they might be listening to the zebras over there. So it's really, really cool and it's really important for them. And I don't know if you can see their tails, but their tails act as a nice big fly swat for them. So you might be able to see them flicking it around. And that helps to get rid of all the flies for them. But it's really cool, and you can see how it's not hairy all the way down, it starts further down so that they can flick all the way up to the top of their back, really, which is very cool. There you go.
I'm quite curious about them sleeping. When I was here
Yes.
earlier, a couple of them were sitting down, which I've never seen before.
Yes.
And I think because they're so lanky, it looks very awkward. So when they sleep, do they lie down? Do they do it standing up?
Yes.
And how much sleep do they need?
So our giraffe are very cool in the fact that they will sit down and sleep, but they actually only require about 7 minutes sleep every night. That is REM sleep, so that stands for rapid eye movement sleep, which is essentially when they dream. So just like us, they think that giraffes dream, which is really cool, and I'd love to hope that they are just dreaming about leaves and when they're going to get some leaves. But they will put their head directly onto their back. So if you ever see them quite floppy and they've got their head rested on their back, that means they are fully asleep and dreaming about them leaves, hopefully. So it's really cool. They don't need a lot of sleep at all. But obviously, because they are prey animals, they will take it in turn in the wild to sit down for short amounts of time. But they will sit down and rest for longer amounts of time. So they're still aware of what's going on. You quite often, like you said, see our giraffe sat down in the house, but they're not doing that REM sleep. So they are just resting and just recovering, really, which they can do for many hours, and they do overnight for many hours. But that REM sleep, that core deep sleep, is only 7 minutes, so hardly any time at all, which is important if you're a prey animal.
Well, I wish I could just get away with 7 minutes sleep. I
We
think
all-
I'd get a lot more done
Yeah.
in a day. Now, there's 3 of them in here. It's
Yes.
obviously a little group.
Yes.
Out in the wild, would they normally travel together in groups or solo? And
Yeah.
when there's a male and a female, do they tend to pair up for life like some animals do, or go their own way after they've done what they need to do?
Lovely. So normally you will find giraffe in groups. They're nearly always in groups. You do normally have one male bull giraffe, and then you'll have multiple females and then their offspring. It's not unusual for you to find young bachelor groups, so young boys just like ours. That is quite a common thing. You do also get solitary males, which is also common, and often the solitary males will go and challenge the bulls in the other groups to then take over, which is really important for genetics because it stops genetic inbreeding and stuff like that, and make sure that they keep that population going really well. But then obviously, because their offspring then get bigger, the males will then be kicked out, and they'll either wait so they can challenge the male when they're big enough. So our boys probably wouldn't be big enough to challenge a nice big bull giraffe, so they'd have to wait a little bit longer. But a nice bigger one would either do that, or they could find their own females, so either or either. But normally it's a male and their females.
And when they challenge each other, I've heard that they use their necks in fighting. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yes, so you will sometimes see our giraffe doing it, and it is just called necking. And our giraffe do it occasionally, and it's just creating their hierarchy system, basically. But out in the wild, it can be really, really aggressive. So you'll see the 2 bulls and they will whack into one another continuously, sometimes knocking the other one to the ground. It's really, really aggressive and mean, and it's because they're trying to take over that group of females. Whereas our guys, it's kind of just play fighting. You never see it like that. They are just trying to work out who's the boss, basically. But yeah, out in the wild it can be really, really aggressive, and it looks really nasty. I don't know if anyone's ever seen a documentary on it, but it looks horrible, and I'm sure it probably is horrible if you're the giraffe. But yeah, these guys just do friendly play fighting, basically, which you may see if you come and visit Wild Place every now and again.
They do seem to have very gentle personalities,
Yeah.
and they're also very quiet.
Yes.
Well, the Festival of Nature team, we were talking about this last week, and we want to know, do giraffes make any sounds at all? Is it possible for them to make noise?
So giraffes are mainly silent, so as you said, they've been really, really quiet. You will hardly ever hear them make any sounds. They can make like a snorting noise, or like they are known to make hissing noises if they feel threatened. And the female giraffe will make sounds to their calves if they're far away and they want to bring them back. So they are very silent, really. There are studies that say that giraffes do hum at night, and they don't know if that's them trying to communicate with other giraffes or if that's when they're asleep. They're not really sure, but it's quite cool, and they hear in like a lower decibel than what we can hear. So we could never hear that humming, but those guys can, because they can hear in much lower decibel. They are mainly silent, yes.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And giraffes, I want to know a bit more about sort of what challenges they might be up against in the wild. Are they a threatened species? What level are they in terms of conservation status?
So unfortunately giraffes are threatened, yes. So they think there's about 4 distinct species of giraffe. The IUCN hasn't currently recognised this. They still think there's one, which means that they class it as vulnerable. So they class all giraffe as vulnerable. But if you look at our guys, so these guys are reticulated giraffe. So they are currently endangered. And then the giraffe we work out in the wild with are called cordiform giraffe, and they are unfortunately critically endangered. So you know, they are very much endangered, and they just need to be recognised slightly more. They do have lots of threats, unfortunately, such as habitat loss and habitat fragmentation. So that basically means that people come in, cut down different trees, or isolate areas, meaning that giraffe can't then travel to other areas to either breed or to feed, which then either leads to genetic issues that mean that they die out in that area, or they haven't got enough food. So it's really damaging to those populations, because if you've got, say, 60 giraffe in one place and then they can't get anywhere else, and then eventually they just can't breed or they can't get enough food, so then sadly that population would die out. Obviously, like I said, leaves are a major thing for giraffes, so if someone goes along and cuts them all down, then they haven't got that food source that they so vitally need. And the farmers out there quite often are the ones that do that, because they need it for their livestock and obviously to have a livelihood. So it's really difficult to combat that challenges. Poaching is another issue, or hunting for sport is another issue that happens, because trophy hunters quite like to go out and kill giraffe, unfortunately. And poaching, like some locals will poach them for their meat as a mean of surviving. But yes, they do have lots of threats, unfortunately, that do lead to their population decline, really, which is very sad.
It's really sad.
Yeah.
But can you tell us a bit more about what Wild Place is doing to sort of help conservation efforts
Yes.
for giraffes, like these beautiful guys?
Here we have a conservation project which is based out in Cameroon, and it's in Benaway National Park, which is what this lovely area that we are currently stood in is named after, or what we've tried to base it on. So like I said, it's in Cameroon, and we work with the locals out there to survey populations of giraffe. So we use drones with Bristol University, and we look at the different population numbers and different things that are going on out there to help try and combat the issues and help these guys. And we have eco guards that are in the national park, which is all funded for by Bristol Zoological Society, and it's really important because they go on patrol and look out for, like I said, hunters, poachers, people that are probably or potentially going to disturb the giraffe and cause them, to either have harm or that they are going to get pushed out of an area. So it's really important that we do that, and we do lots of wildlife surveys for these guys, and also we promote lots of different things out there to try and help people, and by hiring the locals, they should be supporting us, and we're doing a really good job of making sure that we are protecting that cordiform giraffe that we work out in the wild with, which is really important because, like I said, they're critically endangered. There's hardly any of them left, so by doing that we are ensuring the survival of that species, which is really cool and really important. And every time you come and visit Wild Place, you are directly promoting to conservation out in the wild, which is incredible and is amazing, and thank you so much for doing that, anyone that visits Wild Place, because it is really beneficial to these guys and will hopefully save them in the future.
There's some amazing work that you guys are doing, and that's exactly why Festival of Nature is keen to do something every single year with Wild Place and with Bristol Zoological Society. before we go, I do want to ask,
Yes.
what's your favourite thing about giraffes, or about these particular giraffes?
Yes, so they do have really cool tongues, and I spoke about that earlier, and I do really like their tongues, they're cool. But each giraffe has a unique pattern. So it's as unique as our fingerprint, so no two ever look the same. As you can see, our three look very much different. So that to me is the coolest thing, which is the same as our zebras. No two zebras ever look the same, they always look different. And it's just a joy to work. These guys, like, I come in every day and I absolutely love my job. So it's great to see these guys and watch them grow and watch them develop, and it is amazing. And the training we do with them and everything is really cool. So I'm very lucky.
It's amazing. Some people would definitely say you have one of the best jobs in the world.
Oh yeah,
and
lots
you
of
know
people say
a
that
lot
to me.
about them.
It's amazing. It's absolutely the dream job. It is absolutely amazing.
Thank you so much to Eileen for coming out and telling us more about the giraffes here at Wild Place. Thank you again. Thank you to Wild Place for having us. If you have any questions about the giraffes that weren't answered today, please do leave them in the comments and we will get back to them as soon as we can. And I think if internet allows it, we might do a little close-up on the giraffes for you guys.